Coming to paperback and e-readers in 2021, John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. The man who rules the world breaks on a brand new partner to help him take care of business in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Taking Care of Business in 2021 at online booksellers everywhere. On Friday, a white female writer decided to publish an article on the CNN website stating that boys were using a new term called simp to insult other boys who were being too nice to girls. Now, when I read this article, I knew that this woman had not done her research, and I know that she has not done her research because anybody who owns a MacBook or a MacBook Pro back from 2009 on can go into their dictionary and they can easily find the word simp in that book. And once they see it, they see that this word really has no gender, and it was originally meant to call somebody, it was short for calling somebody a simpleton. And the reason why guys called guys simps is because those guys were so simple, they were not thinking critically about how they behaved in certain situations, and this is how they got taken advantage of. That was the core foundation of the word called simp, and this word has been around for over 100 years and has been in dictionaries for over 100 years. Now, if this woman had done her research as related to the definition of the word, she would have not written this article the way she wrote it. And had she done even more research like I did back in 2009 when I read Dr. Robert Glover's No More Mr. Nice Guy, she would have understood that the reason why many of these boys are being called simps is because these boys are following this nice guy paradigm that was established back in the 1960s and the 1970s during the feminist movement. And these so-called kinder, gentler males are thinking that they can pander to the female and come from this submissive position in order to win her favor and approval. And this is how the definition of the term simp evolved. But this woman at CNN, she did not do any of this research like I did when I was out here writing my ebook back in 2011 called Stop Simping: Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, and also when I went out here in 2015 and then did a second edition of that same book, Stop Simping: Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance. And then I also used that same research to do another book that I published called Stop Simping in the Workplace. And I also used that exact same research to write my third book as related to boys and their ongoing issues as related to being raised as these socially engineered soft males in my book, The Man Crisis. So I have done extensive research on this subject, and I know that when these boys are calling other boys simps, this is not an insult, this is not bullying, this is another boy trying to teach another boy male life skills and trying to teach him what he needs to know in order to navigate social situations with women. But many of these women out here, they don't want these boys to learn these male life skills. And the writer of this article, she goes and talks about how many of these mothers were upset when their boys were called simps. But I believe many of these boys were coming from a single mother household, and in many single mother households, the women get really emotional and defensive when somebody insults their sons, and they don't want their sons to go through any sort of hardship, and they don't really understand when your boy goes through a sort of hardship, what that's going to do is sharpen him as a boy, it's going to build his character, and it's going to shape him as a man. And when these boys are calling this other boy simp, it is not an insult, it is one boy who has male life skills trying to teach another boy the male life skills he's going to need. Because when you go out here approaching women from the place of a soft male who is out here trying to call yourself catering to the woman and trying to defer to her in an effort to win her favor, these girls out here, they don't respect that at all. And that's something not many of the young boys did not get of my generation, Generation X. And that what happened is we had a lot of males out here who were out here pandering to these females. And what happened is a lot of these female predators got involved with these guys, took advantage of these young men, took their money and got them to buy them expensive things. All the while they had no emotional interest in that guy. And while that guy was rolling out the red carpet for her, she was out here pursuing relationships with other men that she actually had emotional interest in, and those men were the ones she decided to choose at the end of the day. Now, what I want to ask this journalist who wrote this article is, what hurts more? A boy being teased by other boys who call him a simp, or some girl gassing this boy's head up, getting him to buy her all sorts of expensive things, getting him to buy all sorts of stuff for her, stringing him along and making him think that he has a chance at a relationship with her, and then him finding out that she never loved him, she never was interested in him, and then she had another guy on the side while she was with him. What hurts more? The guy's calling him a simp, which is a little bit of pain, or the whole lot of pain a guy goes through who follows this simp nice guy paradigm of being the so-called good guy who goes out here and panders to the woman and then finds out, oh, this woman all along was just stringing me along, getting me to get her to buy everything for her and take her on these expensive trips, buy her expensive clothes, buy her all this stuff, and then he finds out, oh, she's got some other guy on the side. What hurts more? Because when I go out here and I hear the horror stories from many of the males who grew up in either single mother households or the households with beta male fathers, what happens is these guys who get strung along hurt way more than the guys who go out here and are called a simp for a minute. These guys get hurt so badly, many of these guys, they turn inward and become incredibly bitter, or they turn into the misogynist who go out here and hate women, or they turn into these whoremonger womanizer types who go out here looking to get revenge on the women who slighted them when they were younger by going out here to use more women. So what hurts more than a guy, again, being teased for a minute and other men coming in to correct this boy's behavior, or this female going out here and being a predator and using said boy because he does not know how to navigate the world of relationships and women. And this is something the writer of this article really does not understand. She doesn't understand that guys are out here using the term simp because they are learning about being a man, they're learning about male life skills, and they're learning how to navigate a course in the world as a man. So what we're seeing here when you see boys teasing other boys, as they allege, is you're seeing actually iron sharpening iron, and you're seeing other boys helping another boy sharpen up to become a stronger man. And that's what many females really don't want to see, because if we start seeing iron sharpening iron, and we start seeing other boys help sharpen other boys into stronger men, and they start to become aware of what's going on as related to women, what happens is many of these females out here, the predators, know that they cannot run the same games that they used to, where they would find these so-called sensitive, nice guys gas them up by playing to their egos and then take them for a ride where they go out here and get expensive dinners, expensive drinks, expensive clothes, and even trips overseas for on that guy's dime. They know that the gravy train is going to end because we have a new generation of men, and that new generation of men is learning the male life skills that many guys in my generation didn't get a chance to learn because we didn't have our fathers in the home, because the feminist movement came in. A lot of women divorced their husbands. A lot of women had illegitimate children. And those boys did not get taught by their fathers on how to navigate a relationship with a woman, how to approach a woman, or how to carry and conduct yourself with a woman. But what we're seeing now is nature correcting its course, and these boys are now starting to learn the male life skills that their fathers and their grandfathers did not get back over the last 2 to 3 generations, because that's what we're seeing on these playgrounds these days, in these adolescent social circles. Many of these young boys, they are listening to a new generation of older men, and those older men online are teaching many of these boys the male life skills that they need. Now, some of these females out here, they want to believe, that this is toxic masculinity, but this is not toxic at all. I mean, as a author of books like Stop Simping, many of my customers are women, and those women are grateful for that book because they say, this book helped my son learn what he needed to know about women before he got out here, and that this book helped this boy be able to understand how to navigate a course with women out here so that he would not be taken advantage of. So a lot of women out here, they're grateful for books like Stop Simping, and they're grateful for somebody coming and pulling their boy to the side and giving him some information, because they don't want their sons going out here to be taken advantage of by predatory females who just want to get access to some free stuff and try to string a guy along on his feelings. And what a lot of people don't understand is this stuff really hurts guys, because I've seen the hurt, and I've actually experienced the hurt myself, and it really hurts for a guy to get played by one of these females out here, and some guys never really recover from it. And again, they either turn into a bitter misogynist, or they turn into a whoremonger, or they turn into one of these guys who just expresses great contempt for women. And if we wanted to have a guy who respects women, he has to learn how to identify a difference between a female predator and a woman who is wife material. And that's all part of the learning process. And part of that is learning that certain approaches don't work for a man. And one of the worst approaches a man can have as related to going out here to pursue relationships with the opposite sex is following the nice guy paradigm. And the nice guy paradigm is one that puts a boy in a place where he's coming from a position of weakness. Because when you have a guy out here who is trying too hard to impress a girl, trying too hard to get her attention, and practically willing to sacrifice his intangibles of manhood, like his dignity, his self-respect, and his self-worth, like many simps do, then he's coming from a position of weakness. And when you come from a position of weakness, what happens is that woman does not see you as somebody she's attracted to. No, she sees you as somebody she doesn't need to care about, because if you don't value you, then nobody else sees you as valuable. And that's something I put in a chapter of my book, Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance. And that was one of the points I put in there because a lot of guys think that they have to put on expensive clothes and stuff to impress girls. They have to buy her expensive things to impress her. No, you just need to be you, and you just need to build up your self-confidence and build up your resolve. And yes, some guys, again, they will tease you for a minute, jab you for a minute when you go out here and do these things. But again, this is not done as malice aforethought. This is iron sharpening iron. And while it may be painful for a minute, that's going to build the resolve and make this boy into a stronger man. And yes, it may hurt for a minute to feel a little bit of that pain, but as that boy grows into manhood, he's going to grow into becoming a stronger man, and he's going to learn how to identify and approaches that are more effective at helping him attract women. Because a boy out here, when he starts to, after he gets jabbed for being a simp and trying too hard, he's going to start learning things like studying body language, studying facial expressions, and learning how, when he's interacting with a woman, if she's interested or not, feeling the energy between two people. He's going to start learning those nonverbal cues that let him know somebody is interested. And and once he learns those nonverbal cues, then he's not going to be out here going out here begging for the attention of a woman by going out here and playing to her by giving her whatever she wants, because again, that's coming from a position of weakness. No, he's going to learn to come from a position of strength. But he can't come from a position of strength when you have females out here telling him that he's being bullied, but he's not being bullied at all. This is all part of the growing up process every boy has to go through. I mean, as somebody who's done the research, I know that every boy goes through this simp phase, but eventually what happens is he grows out of it into a stronger man. And if mothers get in the way of that, a boy learning in this simp phase, what they do is arrest his development. And once you arrest his development, then he's still approaching females the way an adolescent child would, by trying to get her attention and her affection by giving her stuff and trying to come from a position of weakness, instead of him building up learning about how painful things are, and then learning as he grows into a position of strength where he starts to learn things that will allow him to identify whether a girl is interested in him, because kissing up to a female is a position of weakness. Women are not attracted to guys who go out here and kiss up to them and go out here and try to pander to them. No, they don't respect that in a man, because women, when they're looking for a partner, they're looking for a man to be a leader, and they're looking for a man who will have the confidence to stand up for himself. And when they see a guy going out here kissing up to them and trying to roll out the carpet to impress them, they don't see that guy, who they don't even know, as somebody they respect or regard. So a lot of women out here, they don't understand that when you go out here and try to push back against guys who are using the term simp, you're actually pushing back and hurting your own sons, because your sons have to go through this phase. Your sons have to go through this pain. And if these guys are jabbing this guy, they're doing that out of love, because they don't want to see that guy get clowned, and they don't want to see this guy go out and be taken advantage of and then used by this female, because they know that this hurts even more than the ribs that they're giving them. The ribs that they're giving them are nothing compared to having some female just string you along. And what's happening here with this CNN article is we've got a piece of propaganda meant to try to demonize men for trying to sharpen another man. a propaganda piece meant to go out here and present a effort to try to improve the quality of life of men as so-called toxic masculinity, and all part of an agenda to try to keep other men from learning the male life skills they need to learn out here, life skills that can practically save a man's life, because a lot of these guys who get strung along by these females, as I stated in the Man Crisis, what happens is these men simmer and boil in anger and explode in rage, and they participate in a spectrum of violent behaviors when these relationships go sour. And what happens is these males go out here and they commit things like murder, suicides, they stalk their girlfriends, or they go out here and they kill themselves. And all of that is what happens when a boy is not taught the proper male life skills on the extreme of the spectrum. The other part of the spectrum, as I stated before, is a lot of these guys simmering and boiling in anger about the relationship that failed, having a whole bunch of emotional baggage, and being out here and being the womanizer who uses women, being the guy who goes out here and is bitter about women, or the guy who is just really cruel to women. All three of those kind of guys, they come from these guys who don't have any sort of male figure there to teach them about relationships, model how relationships are between men and women, or show them a true path to manhood. And when you say that, oh, these boys are being bullied, no, they are not being bullied. This is iron sharpening iron, and boys, when they're out here, they have to be sharpened into stronger men. And this is something that the writer of this CNN article just doesn't understand, because she's seeing manhood from the outside and not seeing it from the inside, because there are only certain things another man knows about, and there are certain things only a man understands about being a man. Only men understand that when a guy calls a guy a simp, he is not being cruel to him. He's actually loves that man, and he loves that man enough to let him know what the deal is, because he could just sit there and let this guy go on and let him go on to be humiliated, but he loves him enough to pull his chain and say, dude, you're acting like a simp, you're gonna get played. He's doing that because he cares, and he's doing that because he doesn't want to see his friend go out and get played like a sucker, because he knows that when these females see him like this, see him coming from a position of weakness like that, these females don't respect him, and it's not a good look for him. And what happens is other girls out here see him doing this, and instead of them seeing him as a boy they respect, they see him as a tool. And what they do when they see him as a tool is they see him as somebody they can use. I mean, that's what a lot of women who pick up my books like Stop Simping say. They're grateful for that book, because it allows their sons to understand why these approaches don't work. And when you have women like this writing this article, they're thinking, oh, this is about protecting the boys, but this is the type of coddling that creates the dysfunctional beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis, because these boys have to learn this type of pain. It's the only way they can grow, and part of growing, again, is growing through that simp phase and learning the hard truths, because you can learn two ways. You can learn from men teaching you, or you can learn the hard way where the females just use you. And it's a lot less painful when the guys rib and roast you than the females going out here using you. And I've seen that again in my entire generation, and I've seen so many bitter males. So when I look at this is a step of progress, but you have females out here talking about it's bullying, and some of those females out here, they're talking about it being bullying because they know that what's happening now is this new generation of boys is again, sharpening up and becoming a different generation of men than the men of Generation X, who grew up in the golden age of simping, where all we saw growing up when I was a boy, guys pandering to women, guys deferring to women, and these women disrespecting them and them trying to earn the woman's respect. And what this generation we're seeing is guys understanding their value as a man, guys understanding their worth as a man, guys understanding their purpose as a man, and guys breaking out of the nice guy paradigm that was established during the 1960s and 1970s, and breaking out of the social engineering as related to becoming the soft male, and a lot of these guys now taking a road to the standard of manhood established under God's natural order, and these boys learning how to become healthy men. Because when I see guys like this, people are saying, oh, he's teaching him bullying. No, he's teaching him male life skills. And one of the most important male life skills a boy has to learn is how to interact with the opposite sex and how to carry and conduct himself with the opposite sex. And when he's out here again calling another guy a simp, it is not cruelty, it is not bullying, it is a boy teaching another boy what he needs to know so that he won't get taken advantage of. And there are now, again, more resources now for boys and young men than there were back when I was a boy during the 80s, because all we had was Oprah Winfrey, and she was talking about no good black guys, and all these other talk shows talking about no good men. But now we have social media, and we have men all over like myself trying to prepare young boys for manhood and preparing men for manhood, and they're learning and they're growing, and this whole thing is showing us how they're growing. And many of these women now notice how these men are growing, and that scares a lot of those women because they're used to getting their economic resources from these weak, soft males, and they're used to being able to manipulate these softer males into giving them things because they can offer them attention and the possibility of sex, and they can easily turn one of these simp softer males into a trick. But that's not going to happen if we have more males going out here and letting other boys know at an early age what they're doing is simping, and what they're doing is a paradigm that isn't going to work as related to relationships. So what we're seeing is the pendulum starting to shift, and a lot of these females are getting scared because they get most of their resources from men, and now they know that they cannot use these tricks anymore because now boys are now teaching other boys, and that's got a lot of them scared. And that's why we see campaigns like the Twitch campaign to ban the word simp, and that's why we're seeing articles like this to say that simping is some sort of insult as related to bullying and so-called toxic masculinity. This is all part of females' campaign to demonize this word, because they know that the more men use this word in their vocabulary, the more they start teaching other men about behaviors that are dysfunctional for another man. And they know that the more men teach other men about how to identify female predators, they can avoid those female predators, and they also will start teaching these men male life skills like how to interact with a woman on a date and how not to lead with their wallet. That's what I write about in my books like Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, and books that I've written like Misadventures of Captain Save-'em, and books like The Man Crisis. These are all books meant to help boys become stronger men. And again, women go out here and buy these books, and if women are buying these books, then this clearly isn't bullying. This is about boys learning the male life skills they'll need in order to navigate the world as a man, because the world works differently for a man than it does a woman. But the article on CNN, they don't understand. The writer who wrote this didn't understand this because they're coming from the gynocentric feminist perspective, which teaches us boys and girls are the same. But when many boys get out here, they learn the hard way that the world is different for men than it does for women. And again, these boys wind up on a rough road because a lot of these females think that they're going out here and they're going to so-called protect this boy, but all they do is create the toxic man that they allege is toxic masculinity. But the man that they're going out here to create is far more toxic than any other man out here who learns the easy way. I mean, the guy who takes the jabs and learns how to roll with the punches, he becomes a lot stronger than the guy who gets played. And that's, again, something many of these females don't want guys to know. They want to keep them in the dark, because if you keep these guys in the dark, you can continue to get free dinners and free drinks. And they don't want guys' eyes getting opened, so they're writing these articles to demonize men who are talking about men's issues. And this female, again, shows how completely out of touch she is as related to the issue, because she's saying, oh, the term simp is a brand new term. No, this term has been around for 100 years, and I've been writing about this term for over a decade, and I've been listening to guys online talk about this for a good 15 years. So she's late to the party, and her propaganda is showing how completely out of touch she is with the issue. And if CNN wanted to have somebody write a piece on the article as related to this thing, maybe they should have come to me, because you would have gotten a more objective piece on this whole issue, and you would have gotten a piece that would have shown you the truth about what a simp is and what bullying actually is. Because as a guy who has been bullied, I will tell you, bullying is when people try to force you to do something that you don't want to do. And a guy jabbing you is a guy just trying to let you know what's going on. There's a clear difference between the two, but many females, again, who are outside of male social circles, don't know the difference between the two. And the woman who wrote this article, she did not know the difference between a jab and bullying. And she wants to go out here and write this article thinking that she knows about a subject. But when I looked at that whole article, clearly she had not done the research I have done, and she has not done the research many in social media circles have done as related to manhood. Because had she done her research, she would not have written such a ridiculous article that practically makes absolutely no sense and really does not put a clear picture on the subject. Now, if you want to learn more about simps, simping, and the simp/nice guy paradigm, you can pick up my book, Stop Simping: Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to learn more about how this paradigm affects men, you can pick up my other ebooks as related to the Simp series, like Manginas, They Look Like Men But They Act Like Ladies, The Misadventures of Captain Save-'em, and The Man Crisis on Amazon.com in Kindle format. And you can also find The Man Crisis in paperback and Smashword, and you can also find it on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And I also have a book called Stop Simping in the Workplace, which shows you how this paradigm actually destroys men's careers. So you can also find that book on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it on the iBookstore and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more men's issues videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers this April, Isis: Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door must take on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis: Revenge of the Cyber Goddess in paperback and e-readers this April.